Hi, my name is Matthew Wotechko. I graduated 7 months ago from St. Vincent College, where I studied game development and earned a bachelor's degree in computer science. I've made about a half dozen small games, which I have freely available online, and I'm trying to get a job in the video game industry. I consider myself a game designer, which I think might be the most well-known position in the industry, but there's tons of other jobs in game creation, in disciplines such as programming, visual art, sound, writing, production, business, and finally design. And they all have a hand in designing the game one way or another. If you're an independent developer, you'll take on many of these responsibilities yourself. The smaller the team, the more control you'll have over the game, but the game will have to be smaller in scope. Also, as an indie dev, it's much harder to make a living than it is being employed by a company. To get a job at a game company, probably the most important thing is to have a robust portfolio. So, if you want a job making games, employers want to see that you have made games already. To help you with that, I'm going to share with you my process for creating games. For this presentation, I decided to make my own game based on a demo of the type of game you guys might make in this class. So this is what I was going to base my game off of here. It's a neat game. I like the idea. I like that the collision detection is forgiving, as you can see, and that the icicles bunch up a little bit when they come down. But all in all, it's nothing to write home about. It's kind of easy. The icicles never really get too close to me, as you can see. So those are things I really wanted to improve upon with my version of this game. The tools I used for this project were Unity for my game engine, C# as my scripting language. I made sprites in Adobe Illustrator. I got music and sounds from opengameart.com and freesound.com. And I used Google Sheets to track my progress. And for all of these tools, they're either free or there is a free variant of the same type of tool. So when I'm making a new game, the first thing I do after brainstorming is predict what all I'm going to need to do to make this game and how much time all those tasks will take. This provides me a roadmap for my development, and the more serious the project, the more important that is. And it really helps me to learn how long this is going to take. But it's always going to take longer. Initially, I predicted 2 hours for this project. When I did this spreadsheet here, I predicted 3 hours. It ended up taking me a whopping 9 hours. You should always multiply your estimates. I didn't do it this time because I thought this was a simple project, and it was, but I really should have, as you can see. So as you guys start out, you at least want to double the amount of time you come up with through your best estimate, if not more. So why was my estimate 3 times smaller than how much time I actually took? Well, here's what I think. 1, I underestimated unforeseen problems and bugs, as we all do. 2, I underestimated how much I would tune the design on the icicle spawning algorithm. 3, I underestimated how good I wanted this game to play. I didn't just want it to work, but I wanted to make something I was proud of, but I didn't think that when I was going into this project. 4, I underestimated how much juicing I would do, which is stuff to make the game look, feel, and sound good. And 5, I gave in to some scope creep. I took time to add in a feature that I didn't plan, which was a turbo mode as a bonus thing. It was worth it in my opinion, but it took more time than I planned. So my development. My development is always an iterative process. First, I make the smallest prototype possible of the game as quickly as possible. So for this project, that was getting the player character to move. Then after testing that, I create a second, moderately better prototype based off that one. And then I test again. I do that again and again, and rinse and repeat. So doing it this way helps ensure that my game works at all times, because it's easier to fix errors in a small bit of new code that you just added, rather than hundreds and hundreds of lines of it. For me, coding and testing are almost indistinguishable. I code whatever it takes to get something small working. For instance, getting an icicle to move downward. After I came up with the code for that, I tested it in the Unity game engine to see if it worked. It did, except it wasn't moving at a decent speed, So I just adjusted the value of my speed variable, which is called tuning. I knew I wanted the icicles to be destroyed once they reached a certain point, because once they went below the screen where the player can't see anymore, they're useless and just taking up memory in the computer. So I coded that feature and I tested it. And then I moved on to implementing a simple spawning algorithm for the icicles. And I followed the same exact process. Whenever I'm lost, I consult online documentation and forums. Often there's just something I don't know, and I'll be stuck until I seek an answer. Unity has a lot of features, and if I'm in the dark about something relevant, I'm not going to be able to create the best code possible in the fastest way possible. There's no sense in being too proud and trying to come up with a workaround myself. That just wastes time. So as you can see, for half my development process, my game looked pretty awful. It was just a box and some falling triangles. You know, black colors, didn't put any thought into it. But that's okay. To me, the gameplay is top priority, and I don't want to get distracted by sprites and sound effects when I'm still figuring the gameplay out. Plus, by solidifying the gameplay before the look and feel of the game, it allowed me to tailor the look and feel exactly to how the game plays. Initially, I envisioned the game as high energy and frantic, but when I conducted playtests, I saw the opportunity to make the gameplay more trance-like. Something that would be easy, but require your focus, almost meditative. I wanted to achieve a strong yet calming experience of flow in the player. Once I got the gameplay working, it was time for all the bells and whistles. I started designing the visuals and the soundscape. And for that, I went off of three things. One, I knew you were going to control a penguin across the screen. Two, I knew that there were going to be icicles falling. And three, I knew I wanted to be relaxing and soothing. So that brought up a couple questions in my mind. Well, one, why were the icicles falling? I thought, well, maybe they're melting. And two, I started thinking, well, how was I going to evoke that relaxing feel for the player? I thought, well, maybe the penguin is also relaxing in the game. These two thoughts triggered the idea of a penguin relaxing in a sunny, beachy Arctic. It was a funny idea, and it fit the bill of what I wanted perfectly. If this penguin was trying to warm up, that would give him plenty of motivation to try to avoid the icicles. And so freezing when he ran into a block of ice only made sense for what should happen when you lose. I found a free song online that perfectly fit what I wanted. It began cool and relaxing and then turned lo-fi and trance-like. But I was only able to do that because I had the gameplay figured out first. And I only figured out the gameplay because of playtesting. So a playtest is where someone other than you plays your game and you get feedback from them. Playtesting isn't something that happens when the game is done being made. That's too late. You playtest all throughout development, because if you find you need to course correct on something, you gotta do that immediately. Doing it that way saves you time, and if you have money involved in the project, it saves money. You can't playtest your game yourself, because you're not making your game for yourself. When someone else plays, they have different assumptions, ways of thinking than you do. They'll play the game differently than how you intended, perhaps. Something you thought was obvious might be leaving them dumbfounded. You need to decide how to change the game based on those findings in your playtest. And critically, you need to figure out whether your game is fun. You need someone else's opinion for that. If your playtesters aren't game designers themselves, their advice on how to improve the game probably won't be helpful, but what you do need to do is get to the root of how they felt during the game. What was confusing? What was unfair? What was fun to them? What was frustrating or boring? When you know those things, that enhances your ability to design. Now that I'm done with the game, I want people to play it, so I'm uploading it to the website itch.io, which is a free platform for indie developers. And I normally put my games there when I'm done. If I was trying to make a living off this game, my work wouldn't even be halfway done yet. I would need to do tons of marketing to get people to know about my game and then buy my game. But for this, I'm content just having it out there as a work of art that I'm proud of, and something that I think will strengthen my portfolio as I try to get a job in the video game industry. If you're interested in seeing this game or playing this game, you can find it on my itch.io page, which is at matthewotechko.itch.io, or you can find it through my personal website, along with other stuff that I've worked on, like my indie film studio, which you can find on Facebook or YouTube if you're interested in that. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you for your time, and have a nice day.